This interview with Mr. Frank McKinnon was recorded on Friday, June the 5th, 1998 at 2 p.m. at his home in Surrey, British Columbia. The interviewer is Dick Ramsey. Thank you, Frank, for allowing me to interview you. Frank McKinnon is going to talk to us about his Fraser River flood experiences in 1948. He was on Barnston Island when the dikes gave way. Frank, could you tell me just exactly where Barnston Island is located?
Well, Barnston Island is just north of Port Kells district in northeast Surrey, and in the Fraser River. It is served all the time by a ferry that goes back and forth when required, and that's the only way you can get onto that island is by the ferry. The reason I was there was that I was part of a group of men who volunteered to help put sandbags on the dikes from the Cloverdale Board of Trade, and it so happened that I was very active in the Cloverdale Board of Trade and helped to organize the men to go out, and we went on a truck, four of us, about 8 o'clock at night, and the truck owned and driven by Bruno. This is a pony who's still in Cloverdale, and we had a load of sandbags on. It was in May of 1948, and it was dark as pitch, and we crossed over on the ferry, and there was a couple of other trucks going. We were going a different way. We went on the south dike and went over to the northwest corner of the island, where there was a bit of a low spot, and we were unloading the sandbags, and they were being piled where the property of the dike was a bit low. And the river was making a real roaring noise, and I have seen a bit of floods around, but it was coming down really fast and roaring, and it was dark, so we couldn't see what was going on. And we were about half unloaded when somebody came running down from the other way, yelling at the driver to get out because the dike had given away in the east end of the island, and the water was pouring in to cover all the land.
You were in the northwest, were you?
We were in the northwest, and this was the northeast that it was coming in.
Yeah.
And so we started off and jumped in the truck and started off, and we could hear the water rushing up to the dikes, but we couldn't see what happened to it. But they told us we hadn't been out of that area 5 minutes before it broke right through where we were, because that was the focal point.
That was a close one.
Yes, so we got off the island with the other truck that was there, and the island just flooded. Now, most of the cattle and the animals on the island had been evacuated to neighboring areas prior to that, because it was evident that there might be some trouble. So we didn't know how high it was going to go. Nobody knew how high it was going to go, and it wasn't stopping, and the rain wasn't stopping.
It was raining cats and dogs.
It was pouring rain, been waiting for weeks.
Oh my gosh!
All the lowland around Cloverdale was flooded, and some of them even moved their animals out. Mm-hmm. But there was, at that time, Barnston Island did not have more than 50 people there.
No, I was going to ask you that.
Living on the place. Even now, it doesn't have that anymore.
And mostly farm.
And it was all.
They lived and worked there as well.
They lived and worked right there. Yeah. The Utehags lived right by the ferry, and they had taken their stuff off. It was quite a scary thing to be on there and hear the water roaring.
Oh, I would think so.
And knowing that the only way you could get off was to get around to the corner and get onto the ferry.
Yes.
And I've lived in Surrey since 1919, and I remember the flood of 1935, which was just from water and from rain and flood the low land. But I also, in this 1948 flood, there was some areas of south of Cloverdale that people had to move their cows and equipment out. And I'm not aware of any lives lost, but there was considerable damage. And I understand that the farmers that were flooded out did get some compensation. I have no idea how much, but there was there wasn't very much that we could do about the flood, except help in the way of filling sandbags and putting them on the ground. And everybody dug in. There was no question. You just asked them.
I would imagine that when you were crossing on the ferry from the toward the south end of the island, the river, you might have noticed the river was really flowing at a terrific clip, and there were a lot of logs and debris coming down.
Well, it was so dark we didn't see anything. All we could hear was the noise of the ferryman mentioned that he had to watch out, for logs and everything, but it was really difficult for them to move the ferries. But they were very used to it.
So the flood, the water caused the dikes to break, and in no time at all, most of the island was underwater.
Very short time.
Very short time.
When the water came in and that built up, well, then it took the dikes out where we had been sandbagging on the west end as well. So it was just like having a big saucer, and if you broke one in, it just spilled right over onto the other.
So how did you get this work on the sandbags?
Well, the sandbags were already. We were filled in. We just took the sandbags over. And placed them on the.
You didn't have to do any sandbagging.
No, we just placed them in place. We were, a chain gang. They'd pour me in, and two would unload, and the other two would put them in place, and the truck backed up as it filled in. And
I would imagine for the water coming over the dike and trying to put the sandbags in place, that would be a tremendous challenge, wouldn't it?
Well, we didn't have that part. That's where the break first occurred in the eastern end.
Oh,
they had that trouble.
Oh, I see.
We weren't there. We were at the west end, and they had to fill the island first.
I see.
So we got out of there. But it was quite frightening at the time.
I would imagine
because we didn't know whether we might lose the dike underneath our wheels.
Lose your lives too.
Well, it was. You could never swim against that.
No. You don't know of any serious injuries there?
I didn't hear of anybody getting. No. Of course, it rained so long and gradually kept creeping up so long that everybody in the danger area were moved out.
Who moved the people out?
Municipality.
The municipality.
Truckers. Municipal crew.
That'd be Surrey. Municipality.
Municipality of Surrey.
Whereas on the other side of the river, it's Pitt Meadows, isn't it?
That's right. Pitt Meadows.
Did they play any part in excavating?
Not for certain. Not for Barnstone Island. Because Barnstone Island is very close to Surrey and quite a long ways.
It's just a short distance from Surrey.
And quite a long ways
from the other side. But
it's a nice. They built after the flood was all over. They built the dikes up quite high, and it's a lovely place to have a walk. You can go over on the
dikes.
It's about a 10 mile walk, and it's all farmland except a small part is Indian Reserve for a few people, but it's still farm.
How wide would the dikes be now around the island?
I think about 20 feet wide.
20 feet.
And they must be 10 or 12 feet high.
They were telling me that down in Queensborough, the dikes were originally built for the Ice 35 flood, which didn't do too much damage, or even this one didn't do that much damage either, because nothing like what you're describing to Queensboro. But they said that there was just enough room, and in some occasions, for people to walk two abreast.
Oh.
And, you know, that couldn't stop.
Well,
anything.
I don't think the dikes that were there when we were any more than 6 feet wide.
Yeah.
But when they rebuilt them, they made them about 20.
Yeah. And how long were you on the island fighting this?
We were only there for one evening from about 8 o'clock till 12.
Yeah.
And it was about 12:30 at midnight when this happened.
So that's the
extent of my
extent of yours.
That's
the time that you were away from your job. May I ask you what your regular occupation was?
Well, I was the owner-manager of McKinnon Realty and
you
Insurance.
Oh, I see.
So I could take off whenever I wanted.
So the Chamber of Commerce, did you say?
But I was president, secretary of the Board of Trade, Cloverdale Board of Trade.
And it's the Board of Trade that
organized the business people to go out and help.
Yeah.
They just called us this one because it was coming up. And they asked us for help. The municipality asked us for help, and we organized the crews to go out on the trucks. Some crews went earlier in the day and filled sandbags.
Yes.
But at the municipal yards.
Yeah.
And then we.
That's remarkable.
But there was certainly cooperation amongst the people that were helping.
Yeah.
But you couldn't stop the flood.
No. I guess at one time too, there's the period when there's hardly any of the original inhabitants left on the island, just the workers. Is that true? Or?
Oh, there was nobody left.
No.
They were all gone.
Yeah. And prior to the time, and maybe after it subsided, and after we got the water fairly well under control, did they have auxiliary people helping, such as the Red Cross and the Army and the Navy?
Well, I'm not aware of that because I know the municipality was quite involved in getting the people back and getting them settled, and getting their animals back and such like. But I'm not aware of them having, because it was physical damage, not to people.
Right.
You wouldn't need Army or Red Cross or anything, and then it became a reconstruction job.
Yes. So you didn't see the island after the flood subsided and when the people moved back?
No, I did not.
I imagine, although it would be quite a mess, though, wouldn't it?
Well, it had to be because there was an awful lot of water came down.
How many feet did you say in these places?
Pardon?
How many feet of water? At least 3 feet?
Oh, in depth?
Yeah.
Well, I understand it got to be 6 feet.
6 feet.
Yeah. Covered the whole island with 6 feet.
Nickelman Island also would disappear, too, I understand.
Yes, I guess so. Washington Island is not part of Surrey. It's under the control and ownership or tax situation of the provincial government.
Oh, I see.
So Surrey wasn't involved in the financial reconstruction of it. It was a provincial.
Yeah. And I imagine some help came from the federal government too, as well.
I presume. I'm not too sure about that.
I read someplace that the cost about total cost. Well, it's just an estimate, and then there's $17 million.
Well, of course, there's a lot of damage over on Chilliwack and the islands in there too. But there was some assistance by the provincial and federal government to the people, the farmers south of Cloverdale that were flooded out as well.
Yes. Would you have any, you might say, recommendations, suggestions as to how prevention of any such future disasters might take place?
Well, I really think that the provincial and local governments have already done that. They've put on the big dikes and wide dikes and stronger dikes. And if the river is going to get so high that it's going to destroy those, there isn't very much they can do.
No, very good point. Well, this has been very, very interesting. You've told me a tremendous number of things in a relatively short period of time. Would there be anything else that you would like to add? to this? Can you think of anything?
I don't think so, except I can give you, there's the truck driver, he's still living there.
Oh, he's still living
in Cloverdale.
At Cloverdale.
Yeah.
Bruno Zapponi,
Yeah.
18571 56th Avenue, Surrey.
That's right.
And that's his number, 5744680. Well, he was the one who...
He was driving the truck.
Yeah, yeah.
It was his truck. He volunteered his truck in time.
Gosh. Well, that's very good. Maybe let's just cut this off for a second. Frank, you've given me a great deal of information, as I said before, in a relatively short period of time, and it's very pleasurable to interview you and to find out about your experiences in the 1948 Fraser River flood. Thank you very much indeed. It was most informative and, as I said, enjoyable.
Very good.